Hello, guys. Welcome to another episode of the e-commerce lab by Ecomcy, the place for everything related to Amazon, FBA, parallel, and e-commerce. My name is Vincenzo Toscano, founder and CEO of Ecomcy, and today we bring you another guest. Her name is Kitty Lay, and she's here for the second time now into the podcast. She's the founder and CEO of Me Brand, which is an amazing agency when it comes to supporting Amazon sellers to navigate everything around branding and packaging. And that's exactly what we're going to be talking today, packaging. We know packaging is all about that first experience when you receive the product in your hands. Is one of the main reasons why people, even myself including, sometimes buy brands such as Apple. That experience of receiving that package in your hands, such a perfect experience and so on. So we're going to be talking about how you can add the same to your product on Amazon, because we know it's getting tougher and tougher, and brand is definitely the answer. And that's why Kitty, I'm sure, is going to drop some gold nuggets, as they call them today, on this episode. So Kitty, it's a pleasure to have you for a second time here on the show. How you doing?
I'm good, thank you, Vincenzo. Thank you for having me back. So I'm so excited to be here.
Same. Thank you so much for being here. I know you have so much experience in the field when it comes to branding. And before we jump into all of that, it would be great if you can give us just a little bit of a glimpse of the background that you have in the space, and the amazing portfolio that you have when it comes to branding, and then we can dive into the topic. Yeah.
Absolutely. So yeah, I've been a designer in the field for over 20 years.
Wow.
So I graduated as a graphic designer, a communication visualizer, and I've been working in London for over 20 years, working for brand agencies and in-house for actual retail brands. So Ted Baker, I was there for 10 years. I worked my way up, managed a team of designers. So we worked on everything, on the marketing, on the store designs, on the point of sale, all the branding and labeling, ticketing boxes in store. That would be in my department. And then I went on to working for another brand after 10 years, onto a brand called Kafkistan. So again, retail space, lots of kitchenware, homewares, polka dots and floral things, very feminine brand. So very different from a high-end fashion brand. But again, managing the packaging, I rebranded everything for the business and worked very closely with the founder. So you'll see lots of my designs, actually, my branding out in the streets. I do see people, with my products. So it's amazing to do that. And I've ever since then I've continued to work in my own agency and my own Me Brand, working for Amazon sellers. The reason being is I actually did an Amazon course not so long ago in 2017.
Okay.
Launch my own baby brand in the US and the UK. So I do understand, working on the Seller Central, the background, and actually the complexities and the challenges you have as an Amazon seller. So that's where I bring my expertise to your audience, Vincenzo, and I'd love to help them, because I've been on both sides of a brand, and just marketing it and getting campaigns through for my clients.
Yeah, 100%. I think branding, as I said on the very beginning of this episode, like, so important. I see all the time sellers struggling with that. I think they have the perception that branding is all about just putting a fancy name and a logo on a box, or a product, and that's what they call branding. But we understand now more than ever, and we saw during the period where all these aggregators came to the space and buying brands, the goal was always to buy really a brand that had more than just a logo. They had actually an experience, that a community around the experience. They were beyond Amazon and all of that. And I think that's something that in 2024, especially given the panorama that we see, like with fees increasing and competition being more first, you really need to stand out. And I think packaging is definitely one of the things you can use to your advantage, to be more than the typical copycat, just black box that you can bring from China. And that's it. So I guess the first question I have here is for all those Amazon sellers watching this and listening to this episode. It's like, how do you even get started with imagining, like, what would be the branding looking like when it comes to around your packaging? Like, because it's when you don't have something in your hands, or you don't even have a concept, it can be tough about what shape, what color, how to keep the synchronization of all the things across the board. So tell us a little bit about what is the first step for an Amazon seller. Yeah.
Right. So for an Amazon seller, firstly, you need your branding, you need your design, you need to have guidelines essentially for your brand. So if you don't know what guidelines are, it's like I call it the brand Bible. You have your fonts, you have your color palettes, you have your logos, your do's and don'ts, you have your mission, your vision, and the tone of voice that envelopes your whole brand. And once you have that, you can start designing on anything with your brand. So when it comes to packaging, don't feel stuck. Oh no, what do I do? And it's not about the packaging, it's the brand that you're putting onto the packaging. So you could have any type of substrate or any type of shape, but it's taking your brand and putting that onto the actual packaging itself. And I guess it has to sort of suit whatever your product is as well. So you need to look into materials or the best use of it. And I generally look at a lot of sustainable and eco ways of packaging a product. And I think that's a way forward of doing a lot of things. I think a lot of customers now, they're very savvy when it comes to the environment and looking after, materials and recycling and stuff. So you need to look at that as well. But I would say if you're starting from scratch and you have a low budget, and I know I work with a lot of brands and people that are like, I don't have a budget, I can just about afford a designer to do it. So I would say look on Pinterest and go do some research. So this is how I would do it. I would go and do research first to give yourself a very good idea of what you're designing. So for example, if you're designing, say, makeup brand, say a lipstick or something, and you think, oh, how am I going to package that? And how would it look? And design wise, go into Pinterest, type in lipstick packaging. You'll have a whole array of different designs, different materials, and it's a whole visual, a visual sort of display of things that you can get and ideas, and then start putting them into the boards. If you know how to use Pinterest, put them into the boards. If not, screenshot them and file them away. But you can do that with any product, whether it's spices, coffee, baby packaging. Just do that, type it in, and I find it much better than just a Google search or searching on Amazon, because it's really design led as well. So all the big brands are on there as well, and I love it. And they even have things like the color palettes and font pairings and things on there. So it sort of really gives you an idea of where to start.
Good. And I think another thing that I want to add on top of this, which I'm sure you can elaborate on that, it will be that from my experience, of course, what you say is very important, like understanding what people are doing on that specific niche and all of that. But if I'm not mistaken, I know that there are some basic guidelines from the perspective of branding as a concept, that when you're selling certain products, you need to keep certain colors away due to the psychological effect it may imply to the person buying the product and things like that. So if I'm not mistaken, that's correct, right? Like if you're selling food, you need to stay away from these primary colors. If you're selling toys, this and that. So maybe can you talk high level how people should be mindful of that as well?
Yeah, so there is a color psychology behind how people buy and purchase, and there is certain products that you should avoid. I don't think, I mean, you can go against the grain and be completely different and just do it anyway and then stand out that way. But people psychologically think, if I'm going to buy food, I don't want it like in green or blues or something that will remind them of bleach or something, a toilet product. So and I do say that with baby products, a lot of warm colors, muted colors work very well with babies. Although I have seen alternatives, some brighter colors, but they're less calming. And I think they introduce that into the packaging more than the actual product itself. So there are ways around it. It depends how adventurous you want to get and how you want to stand out. And there are ways of doing it. And you can keep it subtle in a way, but also bring out a big bang and, really excite customers as well, thinking, oh, that's completely different. I've not seen that before. It works both ways. It's depending how confident you are with your brand.
Exactly. Now, when it comes to packaging as well, of course, design is number one priority, but I think more than ever, and I see especially on top tier brands, they spend a lot of time on what is the actual experience of opening the box, of opening the envelope, like the little sticker, the little sparkling thing here, there, and all of that. The journey towards having the product in your hands, right? So I guess what I'm trying to get here is like how you even envision this in the first place, because if you have not done packaging, like it's difficult to really come up with a whole concept about how to provide that experience to a client. So do you have some advice about how we can
Yeah.
even come up with some ideas around that? Yeah.
Yeah, so it's the whole unboxing experience. And I
Yeah.
would say, what delights you when you get a package? What
Yeah.
are you looking forward to? Wow, I just need to get that scamper. I've got to get
Exactly.
open that box. And wow, what am I going to pull out? And you got to think about what you think would excite you. Is it the tissue paper? Is it the branding? Is it the story behind the box
Hmm.
as you're opening it up? What is it? Is it the actual product inside the box? It's got a nice matte laminate on it and it feels so soft. What is it? Is it the pop when you open that Apple box or
Hmm.
whatever? That, you know,
Exactly.
what is it that excites you? And I guess not all products are exciting, but then you got to think of the ways how can it excite them. It could be even a sort of a little giveaway, or the insert that you put in, and they go to a site that they have to log in, or scan a
Hmm.
QR code, and there's a game or something that there's it's the whole experience of the unboxing. And I think it's the tactile, and that's what I love. It's the materials that you use and the colors. And I think you have to remember that at the end of the day you're using Amazon's space to sort of deliver your products. So how can I better that? At the moment a lot of brands are using SIOC, so ships in
Hmm.
own container. So a lot of Amazon sellers are branding their own box, using their own box, so they don't have to pay for the fulfillment or the actual packaging, Amazon packaging.
Exactly.
They've got their own
Exactly.
branding on there. They've got their own story. They've got their own colors. When they open up, it's already their own box. So they don't have to
Hmm.
worry. It's that horrible brown tissue paper that they, the paper that they have in the actual Amazon box. So there are ways of getting around that. And it's depending on what you want as a brand. And if you're still starting quite small, then
Hmm.
you can think of other ways of doing that. But if you have to stick with Amazon packaging at the moment, then that's where you'd need to start. But as you grow, I think you need to sort of start building off Amazon, selling off your own website, selling off Instagram, selling off
Hmm.
TikTok, or whatever channel you can sell, because Amazon isn't the only space. It's a great space to start off with. Customers are in the door, they see your brand, but as they grow and as your product and your brand grows, oh, what's next?
Hmm.
Your customer's going to want to buy into your brand and think, I really like them, but what are they selling next? And you want to retain that. So it's doing everything you can to have that experience, and it all starts with the unboxing.
Exactly. And something that you mentioned there, which is super important, is basically, when you start opening your wings outside of the Amazon ecosystem, if you don't really have a packaging that is retail ready and you're just using like a poly bag or a cardboard or something like that, it's not going to look nice, as you say, on the shelves or on a small shop or something like that. So you really need to think a few steps ahead, like when my brand starts to grow, how I make sure my branding, really sticks out on these other channels. So very important tip there. Now another thing when it comes to packaging, it has also to do with the fact that some people might have the question like how you navigate the fact if you're selling the product across multiple regions. So in terms of localizing the design, because the European community might have certain tastes towards specific colors or specific
Mhm.
shapes and things along those lines, compared to if you sell the same products in Latin America, right? So
Mhm.
in your experience, have you seen like even big brands, for example, do they really adapt their packaging depending on the region, or you don't really see that being a big deal nowadays? Yeah.
Um, for my experience, obviously I'm coming from a retail perspective,
Yeah.
and a
Yeah.
lot of retail's brands, they don't change their logo or
Okay.
their branding or their swing tickets or their packaging for anyone in the world. Generally, sometimes they might, but it's the clothing, it's the product, they do
Okay.
tend to change a little. Um, but it's, you know, it has to suit that market. There are certain colors that you could avoid in certain Asian markets, you
Exactly.
know, so it's really thinking most colors are actually acceptable, and people do buy into the brand. And I don't think it's so much of an issue if you're thinking of going to the Japanese market, you know, or
Exactly.
the Australian market and selling
Yeah.
there. I don't think it matters a great deal, but it really,
Okay.
again, it depends on your product, really.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. I guess maybe what you could have some you might need to do some modification if it's, let's say, you come from the Asian market and you have to come to European, given the fact that maybe the text is different because,
Yeah.
you know, different alphabet, you might need to rearrange certain things around the packaging, but that would be the main change, I guess, right?
Yeah, absolutely. There is compliance in terms of if you're
Yeah,
shipping to America, you have to have certain details on the
exactly.
packaging and on your products. Same with Europe will have a different criteria as well when it comes to compliance.
Yeah. Now, when it comes to packaging, of course, we can talk about, you know, has to, of course, branding is number one, then the experience. But at the same time, if the packaging itself is not efficient in terms of for shipping purposes, for example, it's also a bad overall long term because you may have the amazing experience and everything, but then it's a huge box and it comes with so many things. And,
Mm.
you know, we also need to be mindful of that. So I guess from the perspective of that, like how from your experience, how you keep a balance between that, like the experience and of course having an amazing branding, but also making sure the packaging is efficient and you're not overpaying, let's say for shipping or fees because your packaging is bigger than the rest and all of that. Like do you compare your packaging in terms of size against your competitors and things like that? Do you advise that, for example?
No, I don't really. I mean, I see what competitors do, but then I
Yeah.
just see them as peers. I don't compete with them. If I
Okay.
can better it, and then I will.
Okay.
But in terms
Yeah.
of, you know, there's things you can do with materials as well, and it really
Okay.
each seller is different. The clients I
Hmm.
have different. They all have different budgets. Some have
Exactly.
like a bigger budget than what I'm used to. You know what? You know, a lot of, and I
Yeah.
generally work to very low budgets where I can think because I've been doing it so long. I know what's going to be cheaper than that. You know, another product, and
Mm-hmm.
the weight of the board that you use will be cheaper than a thicker
Exactly.
weight. So you know, there's certain ways you can get around that without hindering the product, you know, the protection of the product as well. So
Sure.
you know, having a big box, if you've got a big product, you're selling big speakers or something, you know, what do you do with the box? You know, I mean, I generally use like an example. Now I'm gonna forget it now. The toilet roll. Oh,
Yeah.
what's it called? What are the? I usually use that
Yes.
example. Oh, who gives a crap? So who gives a crap?
Okay.
So they
Yeah.
have beautiful individually wrapped toilet rolls, and they got beautiful designs on them. They're made from bamboo or recyclable tissue, but the box itself has a whole story around it.
Mm.
About their
Okay.
brand, their mission, and what they're all about. They also donate to charity, so their charity is on there. But they also have a piece where it says what you do with the box afterwards. It's just a brown box. What do you do with the box afterwards? So they say your kids can make this into a spaceship, or your cat could love
Oh,
this.
that's
Your cat could,
nice.
you know, make this into the little
Yeah.
home, or you know, there's other things you can do beyond just having a brown box and then throwing it away.
Yeah.
So you could think about ways of using your packaging, especially if you've got big boxes, because it just seems a waste.
Yeah,
Yeah,
for
so
sure.
I would think of clever ways of doing that, and a lot of brands are doing it now.
Yeah. In fact, you mentioned something there, which is the recyclable part, which I'm sure some people might be interested into how you can even use this to your advantage. I guess there are certain kind of materials that can be more cost effective, or you could even use that within your branding and say, you know, my bulk, my packaging is 100% carbon free from
Yeah.
footprint in terms of carbon. So tell me a little bit about how that could play a role into branding as well, like when it comes to that.
With the carbon footprint, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a question. So, yeah, so I guess if you're shipping, and then this is really difficult because I know a
Yeah.
lot of Amazon sellers either ship from China or India or somewhere, so it's got to go somewhere. And to avoid that issue, there's not a lot you can do, but you can give back. So I would
Mm.
say give back to either charity or the environment. And I know if you can source locally, as much as you can.
Okay.
Sometimes it will cost more, but if you can do
Yeah.
that, then there's that headache of like, oh, that carbon footprint. It's not like 1,000 miles across the world, and if you're thinking about the environment and your customers are thinking about the environment, then can you source locally? Can you make it locally? What can
Exactly.
you do locally? If it means just printing, I don't know, getting your products made out in the Far East, shipping it to
Hmm.
the US or UK or where you base it, then getting it packed in the UK, then that way
Yes.
you're reducing the weight and the shipping costs as well. But I would say if you can give back to charity or some sort, maybe have some brands actually have their packaging, you give it back to them, you send it back to them, and you get
Mm.
points or something back, and
Interesting.
it's reusable. So, and a lot of, if you've got reusable packaging, great. If your customers can use your product, you have first use, and then they get sent
Yeah.
a pouch or something to refill it. Coffee do that. A lot of coffee brands
Yeah.
do that now as well. You
Exactly.
get the first fit, or washing powders. So if you
Yeah.
can think of ways of doing that, then you are reducing a lot of things like packaging anyway for the environment, because you've got to make the packaging in the first place. But
Yeah.
yeah, so there's lots of things you can do that way to reduce the carbon footprint. So
Very
I hope
nice.
that explains a little bit.
Yeah, very nice. Very good. Very nice answer. Yeah. Now regarding, I think images, and the reason why I'm saying images is because I think if you're also clever with packaging, they can really be, they can be a very important element in your images, especially your main images, to basically stand out from the competition, right? So I guess what I'm trying to get with this is when somebody's designed their packaging, do you think we should also do some kind of brainstorming about how I can make sure the packaging is basically as exciting as it can be? So when I put it on a picture, it really makes my product stand out. Like, is that part of also a strategy you see brands doing, like putting the packaging as part of their, basically the lineup of images they put out there, so it stands out basically? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely, yes.
Yeah.
People want to see what they're buying. They want to see the
Exactly.
packaging. They want it to look great. That shower gel, oh my god, it looks so
Yeah.
great on
Yeah.
that shelf. And
Yeah.
this muscular guy using it in the shower,
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, so it's getting. If you got cat food, they want to see a cat eating from the
Excellent.
the tin, and or with the pouch, being fed. But it has to be art directed in a way, not done just on a plain white background, and
Exactly.
just you've got to think about the story. What is it, the story?
Mhm.
And again, it comes back to the experience. It comes back to the brand. What is your brand? Is it the plain white background? Is that what you are?
Mhm.
And is that, if it is, then that's what you're going to be doing for all the rest of, try
Exactly.
and make it exciting. And I think it's making it into campaigns, so it doesn't have to stay the
Mhm.
same. Well, the audience and customers get bored after a while. Oh, that's that same image again. It's that same image. If you're selling a baby product, you want to see different babies, different
Exactly.
products on season. If it's seasonal, if your
Mhm.
products, I would sort of create a story, a narrative in your photo. Especially on your listings, it creates a sort of more of an experience for your customers. Like, oh, I can really see myself using that silicon spatula and cooking
Yeah.
my spaghetti. So yeah, it's all those the really boring products, but
Yeah.
it's like, oh wow, I can really see myself using that, and it's really pitching it to your audience with visuals, because it's all about the visuals.
Very good. Very good. Yeah, I mean, to be honest, yeah, we have covered amazing things. Like, even from, I think one of the important things that I can get out of this episode is from myself personally, is the environmental side of things, because I agree. I have seen more top tier brands, even when I'm shopping and seeing around, they're making that more part of their branding and packaging. So I think is very important that we actually mentioned that on today's episode, because I think people is becoming more and more conscious about that. And I think if you can combine with a good cause as well, like,
Mhm.
you can definitely stand out from the crowd. Like, you're really adding value back to
Yeah.
the community that you're supporting. Awesome. So now, before we conclude, I want to ask you, just to make sure I'm getting as much knowledge out of your brain. Can you tell me, is there anything else you think regarding packaging or even branding in general that maybe you see people doing as a mistake, or they're just doing wrong, unfortunately, and you would advise, to do otherwise, so they can really navigate the Amazon game? Yeah.
Yeah, so I think a lot of people, when they create their brand, they think the brand colors, that's the logo, and that's what it's got to go on the packaging. And that's the whole packaging, the branding,
Yeah,
everything has to be that color. And I think
yeah.
that's where people get it wrong. Your logo should stand out on its own,
Mm,
in its own colors and as its own entity. But when you come to design, packaging, it doesn't have to be that color. You can have
exactly.
strains of, complementary colors that work with your brand, but I wouldn't focus too hard on just that the corporate colors are that's the colors I can only use, because that's
Yeah,
not it. Apple create phones, their logo is black and white,
exactly.
but
Yeah,
their products, they got green phones, they've got, all their colors are
exactly.
different, their packaging is completely different. So I wouldn't think twice about using your brand colors for everything.
Awesome. Amazing tip. Thank you so much, Kitty. And now in case somebody, wants to reach out and get in contact with you, because I'm sure a lot of Amazon sellers now watching this might say, yes, this sounds amazing, great tips, but I'd rather hire a professional that, knows how to do all this efficiently and give me the best outcome possible for my product. So how people can reach out to you so they can get support when it comes to branding and packaging.
Yes,
Yeah.
so they can look at my website. It's mebranddesign.com. So,
Okay.
and you can also follow me on Instagram as well. So that's just me brand design. So you should be able to find me quite easily there as well. And
Awesome.
you can book a call, you can sort of message me as well. So it's pretty straightforward.
Good. Yeah, I'm gonna make sure to put everything down in the description so people can find you. And in the meantime, I thank you for your time. Thank you so much, and I'm looking forward to see you in a couple of weeks in the Seller Cruise in Miami. So
In Miami,
that's gonna be awesome.
yeah. Brilliant. I'll see
Okay.
you soon.
Thank
Thank you
you.
so
Have
much
a
for,
nice.
yeah.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. Bye bye. See you,
Thank you.
Kitty.
Bye.
Bye.